Hello and welcome to another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haines, former UCLA college level high jumper, now longtime coach. And today we are in the middle of the summer and a week after the Olympic trials. And we'll be talking with Dylan Fox from Concordia University, a young long jumper I've had the opportunity to meet a few times. Here he is, just popped up on the screen. I've already hit the magic record button, so I'm not going to miss a podcast. Awesome. How you doing, Dylan?
Pretty good. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. It's been a while. A
Yeah, it
couple.
has.
I remember seeing you at that early indoor or early outdoor indoor qualifier. I don't know what it was, but at
Yep.
Concordia again this year, right? So
Yep.
I think that was the only time I've seen you both years. So tell us a little bit about the difference between the two. For those of you that are new to the show, this is Dylan Fox. He's a long jumper at Concordia University here in Southern California. Last year broke the school record. How did this year go at Concordia?
Broke it again
Mm,
and ended up winning Pac West for the second time, and then went to nationals for the second time.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys are D1 or D2?
We're D2.
D2.
Yeah.
And I've often been curious about that because I could have sworn back in the day, I only made it to the D1 finals once. It was my senior year. And
hmm
could have sworn there was a guy there from D2 or D3 who had either won or jumped the qualifying height that
hmm
would have qualified for the D1. So
Yeah.
I think he won at D2 or three and then came to the D1 and
hmm
also competed there. Is that still available to athletes?
Yes, I think so. I think there were some new rule changes that allowed transferring of athletes.
Uh-huh.
They made it a little bit easier for people to do that if that's what they wanted to do. But honestly, the pretty cool thing about track and doing it at Concordia is we have enough funding to do indoor and outdoor and go to
Right.
those big meets. And so oftentimes in indoor, we're usually the only D2 school there. And
Right.
we're competing against all D1s. Like we competed against Texas this year and um, at Albuquerque. It was in Albuquerque that
Uh-huh.
first against Texas. And there were some Olympians there that I jumped against. It was pretty
Right.
cool. But
Mm.
yeah, so the lines between the two are pretty blurred when it comes to track and field.
Yeah.
So it's nice
Yeah.
to be able to compete at the higher level.
Yeah, well, I mean, the marks always went out, right? So no matter what league you're in, you're either a big fish in a small pond or you're one of
Yeah.
the many big fish in a bigger pond, but it's like once you start competing at a certain level, they just kind of wave you on up. It's
Yep.
like when you show up at the concert and you've got, you don't have tickets to get backstage, they kick you out of there pretty fast. But when you've got your backstage pass, you just kind of walk through like a VIP. That's
Yep.
pretty cool, like you said. So tell us what's the new school record that you own?
762 was the mark.
Okay. And in
That one
American,
at
that
Pac
is, I would say in American because I can't think in meters still. So how far is
uh,
that?
25 feet even.
Mm.
Yeah. It's a
And
good
was
it's a
that
good
close? Yeah,
mark.
I know. Say in American. What was the Olympic trial qualifying distance?
I believe the lowest qualifier was 775 and then
Hmm.
the automatic was 8 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the end of your sophomore year or junior year? Where
Junior
end of your
year.
junior
Yeah.
year? So you got one more year left. And
Yeah.
then have you thought about LA in 2028?
Yes. I mean, I was hoping to do something a little bit more this year, but some things came up and injuries were there, and
Yeah.
but sometimes things just don't work out perfectly as you want.
Well, hey, being able to increase your PR and reset the school record is not any small feat, whether or not you're feeling great when you do it, right? So no
Yeah.
matter how that worked out. And that Olympic qualifying mark is a weird one. I chased after that for three different years.
Yeah.
Didn't know I was going to be doing it in '84 because it wasn't on my radar at the start of that season.
Mhm.
It was too high, and my I was still jumping 6'10" in high school, but then all of a sudden I popped up from 210 to 218, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden somebody said, "Hey, the Olympic trial height's only like 224 or something like that." I was like, "Oh, that's a couple inches, maybe." So that got it on the in the sight line, but hadn't really planned for it. I sat happily home that summer and worked as a busboy and made up some
Mhm.
units to stay eligible and watch the Olympics with everybody else, and then in 88 and 92, those were more like, okay, I'm no longer in college. I'm, trying to do this on my own, that whole thing, which is a subject for a bunch of new podcasts. I want to touch on that area. So, I've been talking with a lot of athletes like yourself and had Dontavius Hill on a couple times now. And we've been talking about, the things that you go through when you're out of college, and
Yep.
quote unquote professional, but, you're still trying to attain that level where you could actually make some decent money at track and field. If you can get some appearance fees, you can get some performance fees, right? You get
Yeah.
some bonuses for winning, at the Diamond League meets or, setting a new record somewhere, whatever.
Yeah.
And, those opportunities are a lot smaller, I think. They're bigger now than they used to be. I remember when I was my roommate, Dwayne Washington. Dwayne, if you're out there, he was a triple jumper at UCLA, a 53-footer. We went to the same high school and we were roommates my freshman year. And we would sit up talking at night about our dreams, and yeah, I want to go to the Olympics and I want to win this and I want to do that. And, be on TV and, be
Yeah.
on the cover of the Wheaties box, like, Bruce Jenner. And, and I didn't realize at that time how narrow that road is. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a very narrow road. I mean, there's a reason why they've been calling it amateur athletics for a long time, because there just isn't a lot of money in there, and the people
Yeah.
that are going to make money on the, uh, the amateur athletes are not the athletes. It's going to be the
Mhm.
big corporations that are all set up to milk the money cows, So,
Exactly.
all right. So coming back to you, way more importantly to talk about Dylan Fox. So you got your senior year coming up,
Yeah.
and what was the transition like for you this year? I know that you lost your coach, Lauren Magnuson, took off for
Yes.
other pastures. So how was that transition?
Yeah, that was a little bit sad that she had to go, but life happens. Sometimes you need to make the hard decision.
Uh-huh.
We had Coach John Brunk, who came in from Chico. He kind of took over the program, planning out all of our splits and everything. And then we didn't have a coach that came just for jumps. Coach Brunk helped out with jumps because he was a decathlete. So he filled in and it ended up being a pretty good season overall. But we definitely got some bigger plans coming for this next year, and we're going to
Uh-huh.
dial it in, get some better jump splits and training splits down. I think it'll be pretty good.
Awesome. Awesome. And then so it's going to be a kind of a weird year. It's your senior year. It'll be the year after an Olympics. So in
Yep.
a lot of ways, I can feel like myself. I was telling several people, I go, I just feel this huge rush of energy, running downhill towards the Olympics. And then I said, I can picture right after the Olympics, just like crickets, just like
Yeah.
it's just going to go real quiet for a while because,
Yep.
the world's kind of take a back seat on Olympic year. And then, indoors a long ways away. And it's just gonna be kind of like, nobody's gonna really be into track and field because everybody's gonna get a huge, it's like eating a whole pie, at Thanksgiving, like
Yeah.
like eating a whole pumpkin pie. Like, God, I love track and field. And then all of a sudden they go, you know what? I know you're used to a little bit, but here, have the whole pie. And then you're
Yeah.
gonna eat that whole pie and it's gonna be like, okay, I've had enough of track and field for a while.
You go into a food coma for a while and you're just
Exactly, exactly. So, you get to recover, heal up, right? Whatever injuries were bugging you,
Yep.
and then start laying down your fall training and everything like that. So,
Yep.
what's in the goals, thing for you next year? How do you see do you have just a 1 year plan, which is going to be you in college, or do you envision that like a new 5 year plan starting now, ending in 2028?
I mean, I would love to be on the 5-year plan. There's a lot of factors that come into play after you're outside of college.
Mhm.
Like food is a big thing,
Yep.
and finding time to train. If I have to work a 9 to 5 job, it's gonna be rough to train either in the morning or
Right.
um. But right now, mine's at the 1 year, hoping for the 5 year.
Yeah.
But you never know what happens after you graduate. But definitely trying to finish out my senior season strong and see if I can hit that 8 meter mark.
Right.
Uh, Gotten close a couple times on a couple scratches this
Yeah.
year and last year.
Absolutely. Hmm.
It's within like centimeter, like maybe a centimeter off the board, and it's
Well, I
those jumps
remember
to get back.
when we talked last year, you were talking about some of the changes that you were making in your technique at the takeoff, right? So you were
Yes.
talking, trying to improve. I know your speed's good and all that, and you said sometimes you didn't feel like you're getting enough lift, right? So,
Yep.
What, how do you attack that? Like most people that know me say I feel like I can help anybody with certain aspects of all the jumps. And then I feel like more qualified in the high jump. But then like when I watch long jump stuff, there's stuff that I watch when I'm watching my feed, for instance, and I follow all the jumps. So stuff comes through my Instagram all the time. And I'll be
Mhm.
like, oh wow, I really like that, and I'll watch it and I'll slow it down and I'll see exactly what's happening there. But a lot of the stuff that I watch still goes back to my coach, who was one of the great high long triple coaches around, which was Baru Elias at Long Beach City back in the day. And all he ever taught me to do, which translates for me to everything, high long triple pole vault, and even hurdling and sprinting, cycling your feet, knees up, feet
Yep.
to your butt, heel toe, last two steps, high long and triple takeoffs, and pole vault for that matter. And I watch that, and then I just see all these different. There's such a wide variety of differences in takeoffs.
Yes.
Different techniques. Um, so I can't remember because I haven't seen your action in a while. Do you have any of your videos to? We could go through one on. It'd be fun for everybody to see you instead of just talk to you. Do you have anything
Yeah.
you can send me real quick that we can break down?
Yeah, I believe I have some videos on my laptop. After almost every single meet, I download these videos on my laptop
Yeah.
and uh I review them with my coach while we're
Awesome.
in yeah, right before we get on.
Yeah, I don't think I've broken down any long jump videos yet. I've done it with Dontavius and a couple others in the high jump, but
Yeah.
I just realized that we put this up on YouTube, and people are watching two people talk, which is exciting. But it's cool when I'm watching like Colin Cowherd or something on YouTube, and then they have professional teams behind them showing videos, and here's so and so's highlights. So yeah, if you've got anything, if you we could possibly, I don't know how we could do it. I could share screen on my side if you send it to me on either Instagram or whatever,
Yeah.
or know how we could watch it on your side.
I might be able to put it in the chat here.
Okay.
Let me see if I can do that. I could probably upload it to the chat on here and then view it from there. Let me check. But this is going to be a jump from outdoor nationals this year.
Nice.
Yeah, let me
Yeah, I'm in the chat. I didn't know you could load up messages there. That's pretty cool.
yeah, let's see if it works. Yeah, I have a whole like little repository of these videos that I've compiled
Mhm.
because especially in indoor meets, we have a lot of time just sitting there
Oh yeah.
in the terminal waiting for our flight or after our flight.
Yep.
And so me and my coach just sit there for like 2 or 3 hours just looking through videos, not only mine, but other professionals as well.
Absolutely.
I've been looking a lot at Simon Ehammer right now. The
Okay.
athlete, just like his form, very similar. It's pretty similar to mine, I'd say.
Right.
So let me
Yeah.
get
It's funny you bring that up, Dylan, because I tell the athletes all the time, the ones that I work with, I said, hey, I was a visual learner for one, and not everybody is. I put some jumpers firmly in the category of artistic learners, like they can almost hear themselves or feel themselves, but they
yeah.
can't watch. It's weird. Not everybody's different, and I love that about track and field because everybody is different. They learn differently, and you have to learn different communication styles and all that. But I was a visual for sure, and I watched and I see things, and if I see someone that I like you says, oh, I really like that guy's knee drive, or oh, I really like the way he gets his hands up at takeoff, or his layout position or whatever, men or women, and
Yeah.
steal liberally, right? So were we able to get it up
Mhm.
there? How are we
I'm
doing?
super grateful. Yeah, it looks like it's uploading to the chat right now.
Okay.
Let
Do I have
me
to
know
allow
if
you
you
in
see it,
somehow, or
but yeah,
I don't
I'm
know.
super visual. It's uploading. It's like a 9 MB video, but because it's Zoom, I think it'll take a second. It's almost there.
All right, no
But
worries.
yeah, when I'm in training or like at a meet, biggest thing I can do is look at a video because he could tell me all he wants. Oh, your hips aren't engaged. I can usually tell what's wrong, but by seeing it, I'm like, there's no way I look like that. Like sometimes my
Right,
knee gives and I'm like, there's no way that happened.
right.
It's funny to see, and then it's something to
Yeah.
focus. Look, I think it uploaded in the chat
Oh
for you.
yeah, yeah. Here we go. Okay, let me see. Let me see.
Yeah,
Let me do something.
see if that works.
Click to open. All right, I'm clicking. Oh, look at this. Okay, so I can
Yeah.
see this, but let's share now that you got me that far. Where's share screen? Here we go. And did I hit share screen? Yes. Desktop. Yes. Share. Bam. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Dylan
Yeah.
Fox. This is, we are at, where are we at?
This is the outdoor nationals.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Big
This
stage.
was
Big stage.
my first jump there.
Awesome. Outdoor nationals. And this is
Yeah.
D2 nationals or does everybody or who's
D2.
D2? What
Yep.
was the qualifying distance to get in?
Uh,
Top,
I
you were
don't know.
top 16. Is that how it still works? Top 16?
Top 20 for outdoor.
Top 20 outdoor. Wow,
I
look at
want
that
to,
extension there. I like that.
yeah, I would, that's one of the biggest, uh, made a lot of progress there this year. And that landing, just getting my feet out, making sure I'm in the position to land properly.
I'd like to get to have, I will probably show some of my guys your running technique here because I'm always preaching taller and knees up and cycling. So those you young kids out there watching this video and some of you guys that aren't so young, watch Dylan's feet kick him pretty much right in the butt there, his
Yeah.
heels to glutes, especially your right leg. Looks like your right leg comes up a little better, but that's your slide step before takeoff. So makes sense
Yep.
that the left wouldn't cycle on that one. And then the trail leg coming up and kicking you as you take off means
Yep.
a much shorter, faster leg, which I like a lot. And there we see one, two. So very low arms at takeoff right here. So
Yes.
the front arm doesn't just gets chin high. Back arm immediately starts cycling around. And we
Yep.
get, and are you a true hitcher or is just like a one half hitch? What
It's
do we,
kind of like a half hitch.
yeah.
So I kind of go up, and then right leg comes through, left leg just goes straight out instead of
Yeah.
cycling again. Yeah.
That's the one
It's kind of like a
thing
hitch hang,
too.
I'd say. Maybe a hitch
Yeah,
hang.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you have. I'll catch some guys. You go to other countries sometimes and you won't see any hitch, any this, any that. I've seen the chair. I've seen someone literally take that knee and just
Yeah.
beat it up. And then at the last second, bring the other leg up and extend both legs. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, you know, that
Works for some
works,
people.
you know. I've seen
I
all kinds
mean,
of different styles.
yeah, honestly, the biggest variation between jumpers is honestly what they do in the air. And
Yeah,
it makes sense because all the work that you like, all the work before you took off is pretty much how far you're going to go. And then while you're in the air, it's just stopping your body from over rotating and then trying to set yourself
right.
up to land properly. But
It's funny too
most of
here,
the work
like
is done by that point.
you see your feet hitting here. So I'm wondering, it looks like your butt and your feet probably end up in about the same spot, right? You get
Yeah.
your feet way out in front of you, but then you're still, it's hard to keep floating perfectly horizontally. So,
Yeah, mine's pretty weird. I instead of pulling both feet through, I kind of reach both out. My left leg stays straight. I'm working on that, but the leg stays a little bit straight while the right one
yeah,
is the one that bends and pulls me through.
I
But
really like looking at the people that do the sideways kick out where you get both feet off to the side and almost end
yeah,
up pointed, across the pit. I
yeah,
find, I find that one interesting. I don't know how to do it. I always said, if any of my kids are looking, I'm like, hey, look at this. I'm like, do you think you could try this? So we'll jump into to the high jump pit, and try to turn sideways. And, it's so funny. Like you
yeah,
said, there's all kinds of different things. I call it, my site's called a Sky High and Fly Jump Lab for a reason, because
yep,
I'm always just kind of experimenting, trying different things,
yeah.
which is the real interesting part. So nice. So how did you do at this particular meet?
So all the jumps felt really good. They felt like my 762, or they felt like a 770, but the marks were like 742, 739, 741, something like that. They were
Yeah.
all within centimeters of each other, but
Right.
just not as far as I was hoping. And my knee started to hurt by the end of it. So I
Yeah.
think I missed out. I placed 11th at this, and I think I missed out on finals by 3, 4 centimeters, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was I missed out on finals by 2 centimeters the year before, so
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
close fight.
the healthiness part, definitely, like you said, if your knee's bugging you, uh,
Yeah.
I was just talking with Jeremy Fisher. Have you ever had a chance to talk with Jeremy yet down at Chula Vista?
Yeah, I talked to him when he was at Azusa for I think it was Brian Clay. He was there
Uh-huh.
with his Indian athletes. And so
Yeah.
I was talking to him for probably like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
If you get the opportunity, I highly recommend it just to get down there. First of all, just to see the place. It's fun
Yeah.
to walk around down there. And then I just got was there one weekend. Just recently they had one and they had another meet right before the trial started. And I
Yes.
was down there hanging out. And it's just fun to listen to Jeremy because he's put a lot of athletes on podiums. He knows the high jump, he knows the long jump and all that. And then they do have a little bit of a program for, trying to help the young American like yourself who's going to be, pretty soon on the quote unquote professional track where you're
Mhm.
kind of, it's hard as you probably already know, but or maybe you don't. But I remember when I left UCLA, I was like, all of a sudden I'm done. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay here on campus? I wasn't going to do graduate degree, stay up there. Like you said, now you got to start supporting yourself. You got to pay for stuff unless they're going to keep you on somehow as a assistant coach or graduate assistant this, and maybe they help you with some
Yeah.
housing, because then you've got a place to train and you got a training room,
Yeah.
which is nice. When you're out on your own, those places start to go away. So it's like
Yeah.
I kind of did what Ryan Sanders did. I coached at Orange Coast College for 6 years and I was training there
Mhm.
myself, but I didn't have a training room. I just had the weights and the place to jump. So,
Yep.
if I rolled my ankle or something, I didn't really have access to that stuff like I did at UCLA. I just hop into the training room at UCLA and stick it in one of the ice whirlpools. So
Exactly.
it's a lot different. And that I would encourage you, if you're looking for, especially, down here in Southern California, but again, Chula Vista is nowhere close to us, really. It's a couple hour drive. So
Yep.
it's going to be a different road for you. So this was 11th place, and then
Yep.
but you won the Pac West second year in a row, you said, and
Yep.
next year we're shooting for 8 feet and qualifiers. Kind of, is that just to let you know that you can compete at that level for the Olympics? Is that kind of the thought process there? Like I could make the trials if I can jump this far?
Yeah. Yeah. I think 8 meters is just a big milestone. And while 762 is what, 38 centimeters from that, I've jumped in the 80s and the high 70s. We've had a couple meets where I've scratched by like a centimeter, but we know it was farther than what I jumped before.
Right.
Or like we had a last chance at Azusa last year and I was jumping, I scratched like I had to have scratched like four of the jumps by a centimeter, but one of the guys measuring was like one of my buddies and he was measuring them and he's like, dude, that was like 780, that was 779 or something, but I was just scratching them by a centimeter. So
Yeah.
know it's in there. I just have to put things together and be healthy enough throughout the entire season to be able to push my body through that.
Right. Right.
I mean, a
Uh,
big part of it is just staying healthy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. How do you attack that then? How do you decide to be, I know it's one thing to say I'm gonna stay healthy. I feel
Yep.
like what
Yeah.
are the odds of that working, but
Yeah.
how do you go about are there any changes you have to make in order to stay healthier? Is there anything you've been doing that you can think back and go, maybe if I did something different, it would affect my health?
Yeah. So because this last year was such a big transition year for us with Coach Brunk taking over, Mags leaving, a lot of the training in the fall was really, really general. It was good. It strengthened us. But as a jumper, you really have to start focusing on putting power into the ground through your jump and plyos and all these other things that are jumper specific that train you and get your body ready to jump.
Right.
Um, Not so much about like form or hitting a good landing or hitting a good takeoff, but just having your body in a position where you can take off the board and do it multiple times and not get injured.
Right.
Um, and so this last fall, it was pretty general. So by the time we got to indoor, um, my body, I don't think was completely prepared to go 100%
Hmm.
into these meets. And looking into this year, we're going to be starting plyos a lot more, first of all, but doing jump specific things in the fall because indoor comes up pretty fast. It seems like it's pretty far away when you're in the fall, but
Right.
all that training counts and just making sure that I'm doing the necessary things, like 30 minutes extra after practice of my own little strengthening or my own little
Yes.
um, stretching routine or rolling, whatever it is going to make a
Yeah.
huge difference for me, especially because my muscles and my tendons, they're all pretty taut, which it makes me fast, but at the same time, it makes me more prone to injury. So it's kind of a fine line between managing that and pushing my body
Yeah.
to its extent. Yeah.
Flexibility, mobility. Yeah. There's, you could, it's funny too, because it's just like everything else. Like as I've watched my feed, I think I've stolen so liberally from Instagram for the last 5 years now, because I'll be watching something and I'm like, I don't even remember when it started, but I remember watching guys all of a sudden doing hip mobility stuff, on
Yep.
the ground, those little side rolls, knees going this way, that way, and I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good. Like I'm looking at it going, I can't do that at all. Not maybe 30 years ago, but not now. And
Yeah.
squatting down in that position with no help and then, doing stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that would be great. It's like
Yeah.
I need a cane to get down there now. But you look at stuff like that, and then all the strengtheners for your ankles and your feet. I'm interested to see these next 4 or 5 years, because so many things have started taking off. Shoes that are designed where your toes are separate.
Yep.
I've talked with so many PT guys. They go, the lower legs and feet are really hampered by the fact that the toes are confined into a shoe, and the
Yep.
foot acts like a club instead of like your hands can. Like
Mhm.
nobody does a sport with their hands in little mitts like this unless you're a catcher in baseball. Everybody
Yep.
else can spread out their fingers to catch. They can do
Mhm.
whatever they got to do to throw things and manipulate objects, hockey sticks and bats and all this stuff. And nobody thinks about operating your hand like it's just in a mitt, except maybe a boxer. Even
Yep.
MMA, right? So you're like, there's so much difference, but the feet carry so much. Your feet are
Oh yeah.
amazing design, but the forces that run through there from that are generated, like I think at your hips, it's like 7 times your body weight. And
Yep.
feet, I don't know if that number goes up or down, but it's like all those different bones and different tendons in your feet, they act like paddles, and they act like, these amazing balancing things. Like I show people when they're running in the high jump, you're running like you're on a bank
Oh
track,
yeah.
but you're not. But
Yeah.
you're leaning like you are, and then your ankles and your feet have to adjust to that. They're
Yep.
amazing.
Got to be strong,
You got to
flexible.
be strong, flexible. Yeah, like you said, you got to have that snap in there. So, I've
Yeah.
seen all the progressions. I have a kid I'm working with right now, Nico from Chico State, and
Mhm.
I'm watching Nico do his warm up stuff, and whoever he might have, maybe your coach now might have been up there, with him, because
Yep.
and he's doing these little intricate foot, warm up stuff, but the plyos look like 10%
Yep.
intensity, right? Just little baby hops, side to side, and this and ankle rolls, and I'm
Oh yeah.
watching.
Rudiment hops.
I gotta film that whole thing, because I watched him do it, and I'm like, it's one of those things. Like I know inherently that that's good stuff, but I'm at the
Yep.
same time I'm training these other athletes, so I'm like, okay, I gotta get him to watch me so I can film that whole thing and copy it. Because I'm
Yep.
like, I like it. I got kids jumping rope. I got them doing those little 2-footed hops in the sand, and then everything that you can do on 2 leg, you do on 1 leg, but you do
Yep.
this volume, right? And so it's real intricate, but the it's interesting because the knowledge base has really climbed in the last 40 years. I graduated with a kinesiology degree in UCLA in 1988.
Mhm.
Within 10 years, that stuff was out of date. Probably less, probably 5 years.
Yep.
And then I got my master's at Cal State Long Beach like in 2005. And I think that stuff is terribly out of date already, and we're like 20 years later. So it's like, because I had a guy named Aaron Wash on the show, and he just graduated from Michigan State a few years back with his
Mhm.
degree in kinesiology. And the stuff he and I was talking about the first time, I'm like, wait, back up. What? Like, okay,
Yep.
oh yeah, you should be doing a heavy dose of isometrics in all your training. I'm like, isometrics? Like when I was at UCLA and taking the kinesiology there, and this is cutting edge stuff, they're like, isometrics has no place in athletic training, none. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, it's always movement and range of motion. And a lot of those things are still true as far
Yep.
as eccentric and concentric lifting goes. But when it comes to joint stability, you need to have that isometric strength, right? And it's like,
Exactly.
oh man. So yeah, it's everything keeps growing in this individual toes. And like I had this little gal today, Allie. She's, I don't know, she's 9 or something. She's a little thing. And her parents are out there, and she starts getting ready to warm up. And I said, take your shoes and your socks off. And they're like, what? And I said, I just want you to run around here on the grass barefooted,
Yep.
and get way up
Yeah.
on the balls of your feet, and start rolling, control the roll, and so I got a lot of things to teach them there. But I'm like, shoes are just like they just turn your feet into these bludgeoning little, and then
Exactly.
yeah,
It's
so
it's funny that you bring that up because I think right after indoor season we started training for 200s. We were doing a little bit of training before, but started training for 200s, and my feet weren't strong enough to be running on the curve in those Nike spikes.
right,
And so I actually had my arch collapse a little bit. Like one of my navicular dropped my foot, had to get it pushed back into place, adjusted, whatever. But ever since that day, I've been doing a lot of research on stability and your ankles and how, maybe your hips hurt, but it really starts your knees hurt, but it
yeah,
really your feet.
yep,
And if your feet are weak, you can't expect anything else to be stable. So,
yeah,
and I had Coach Mags teach me that stability starts at the bottom. Laura Magnuson, she went to Chico. She might have taught your athlete rudiment hops because I've been doing
yeah,
rudiment hops from what she
yeah,
taught me. And Coach Brunk also went to Chico and he has a similar thing for us.
right,
But I was barefoot for probably 2 months every single day at practice. I'd never put my shoes back on. I have them in my bag, but I never put them back on. I just,
yeah,
for that first week, my feet got pretty sore and you could tell they were weak. And then as it progressed, they gradually got stronger. And then I tried to put shoes on again and it just felt wrong because there was so much space between me
right,
and the ground. And it's pretty crazy how the shoes kind of weaken your feet to the point where when you put on
yeah,
spike or when you put power into the ground, you're actually going to be injuring yourself because
right,
especially sprinting, if you're weak around like the bottom of your arch or where your ankle is, it's really easy to roll it or to pull
hmm,
something or strain
yeah,
something. So, and then if your
yeah,
feet are strong, then your knees are going to be in a better place. And if your knees are in a better place, then your hips are going to be better.
yeah.
And especially with long jump, if you don't have stability in your hips, you're just
Oh
going to
yeah.
collapse, and then that goes into your knees, and then it's a
And
whole
then
chain.
your low back. I mean, we got to continue up the
Yes.
line, right? It's like it's amazing how it's an amazing balancing act that you're performing. You
Yep.
just mentioned the 200, Dylan. Did you also you were still in the 4x1 relay this year too, right?
Yes.
So how'd you guys do in that?
It was an interesting year for the 4x1. I think we had some racing conditions that weren't great when we did run. When we did run well, I was running into like a 5.0 headwind on the second straight.
Right.
And when we were able to run, some of us were injured or like my arch had just dropped or someone's hamstring had just kind of gone a little bit. So we were never in like 100% form the whole season. I think the fastest we ran was 41.7 or something like that. But we set our school record last year at 41.63. So it's a little bit of a bummer that we couldn't put it together this year because we had one guy, Cooper Torado, he ran 10:41 this year. I ran 10:60. Our triple jumper, he ran 10:70. So we had
Add the
some guys
speed,
that were
yeah.
moving, yeah, but it just didn't come together.
Uh yeah,
Yeah.
it's frustrating, but I I just watched that world is a whole different world too with the sprints and the handoffs and everything. But like you said, having everybody healthy is huge.
Yeah.
Well, the preparation that you go through is tremendous. You're working on flexibility, power, strength in your feet. I was going to ask you once you're the last idea on that was I think I'm waiting to see, but you can look it up. Look up Peluva shoes, Pelluva. There's a
Okay.
guy on I'll shamelessly pimp for Brad Kearns here, but I had him on the podcast. He has his own podcast, which outshines my own. And he talks about all kinds of things from performance, training stuff to nutrition and,
Mhm.
all the stuff that I champion also. He seems to know more people than I do, but he's doing a great job. But I listen to his stuff and I learn stuff all the time. So I've been listening to his stuff about the separated toes and I
Yeah.
followed those people. So I get them, they're sending me, emails every day like, hey, get these shoes. So I'm waiting to see if there's going to be if Nike or any of the really big shoe companies decide to go with the separate toes inside the shoes. Cause I've seen them now, I've seen
Yeah.
just like they make socks, that fit each individual toe. They're starting to make shoes that do that allow the toes to spread out a little bit. And like I remember even 20 years ago, they came up with those sprint socks. I don't know if you ever saw
Hmm.
those, but you could put socks on that had those tiny little spikes on them. So it's like,
Oh, yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
almost like being barefooted and having spikes on. So it's like,
Interesting.
and then I would love to do a case study just on, I don't know if you know who Zola Budd was. Do you remember that name?
No, I don't.
She was a South African runner,
Hmm.
18-year-old, popped up. Mary Decker Slaney was one of the best distance runners in the US at that time. And I forget which Olympics it is. I'm going to say 88 or 92, one of those. And Mary Decker was supposed to just destroy everybody. She'd been beating everybody for a couple of years. And Zola Budd was this up and coming thing, but she was running barefoot at
Wow.
these meets. And
Yeah.
all these other girls are wearing spikes and they're flying around. And I forget, like I said, it's 10,000. I mean, it's more than a few laps. And there's
Yep.
a lot of jockeying for position, a lot of traffic, right? And so Mary Decker Slaney's just cruising along, doing her thing. And all of a sudden, Zola Budd just like pulls up and runs right by her and then like cuts her off, like just cuts right in front of her.
Hmm.
Then Mary Decker Slaney kind of stops, hitches, trips. And as she's falling, you see her reach out. If you look it up, it's classic. She reaches out and grabs the number off her back as she tries to pull her down with her. Like she was like,
Wow.
"You cut me off and I'm falling." And she literally just was going to grab onto her and grab her down. And she got the number off her back. Zola Budd takes off and she hits the ground and then lays there, sobbing and can't get up. I don't know. She hurt her hip or something. So her
Wow.
fiance came out of the stands, carries her off the field,
Hmm.
crying. And, but, the whole thing that I remember was, what the heck is she doing? She's got no shoes on. And then she
Yep.
cuts in front of her too close, but she was an 18-year-old kid and she
Hmm.
was, the new buzz, but, didn't didn't know what she was doing on the big stage, but talented enough, obviously, to make it to the Olympic final.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's crazy.
I don't remember the last time before or since, ever seeing someone run without shoes. I remember guys kicking field goals in the NFL without their
Hmm.
shoes on because they were soccer players or whatever. But, for whatever reason, I've kicked a field goal, just because when you were kids, you're like, hey, I'm gonna try that out, I'm barefooted
Yep.
and kick a field goal. It's like, okay, I could do that. But I don't know about running 10,000 meters, but hey, maybe with those little sock spikes on your feet, if your feet were real strong, maybe
He would
that's
have
the
to
way
be
to
torn
go,
up.
right? I know
And
you
that,
would, but I mean, picture huge calluses on your feet, or who knows? I
yeah,
don't know. Do the Kenyans run like that? When they're running over in Africa at altitude and just
probably.
taking off through the, yeah. I mean, probably get real tough that way too. Um, well, what else we got? I wanted to ask a couple more questions just for those young athletes out there.
Yeah.
What are the kinds of things that you're going through as you're finishing up here this last year? You got to worry about getting your degree. Are you
Hmm.
thinking about graduate school? What's your major in? What are your plans on that line
Yeah,
as
so
an athlete?
I'm I'm not looking at graduate school right now, because I'm going into data analytics. That's my major.
Hmm.
It's business administration. I don't think at this time a master is required for that kind of industry because it's constantly evolving.
Right.
And my minor is computer science. So they tie in pretty well together. You need to know some coding skills for data analytics.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, not looking at master right now. But data analytics, just, using data to make better decisions for companies. And I
Right.
find that super interesting. I find some parts of it easy and got no worries about graduating with this degree. I'm taking some classes right now,
Right.
some extra classes because I transferred in. Not all my credits transferred, so I'm catching up a little bit on two or three classes at a
Yeah.
local community college, and then we'll be good to
Yeah.
go
I know
throughout
how
the
that
rest of the
goes.
year.
I know how that goes. Do you ever think about doing that same kind of analytics stuff towards like sports sabermetrics? Because that's a huge booming industry right now too.
Oh
From
yeah.
football, baseball, basketball, those they keep finding more and more applications. If you wanted to become involved with betting, oh my gosh, I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing. But they do. I was telling somebody you could bet on a guy in the NBA as he's getting ready to shoot his free throw, make or
Yep.
miss, plus or minus, it's like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's second to second, they're willing to take your money on a bet.
Yeah, so there's under data analytics is like sports analytics, financial analytics, all this all this analytical stuff. But
Right.
with sports analytics, you know, you could work for a team and analyze their players and see who's performing better and who's performing worse and where they went wrong in their game or
Yeah.
whatever it was. But I do find we have to do a final assignment essentially before we get our degree. And I'm thinking of doing something data related with track and field
There
because
you
there's
go.
a lot of data points you can collect there.
Yeah.
And it would be very interesting to see if I can draw some conclusions on my own training and
Yeah.
you know maybe track my sleep. It's called the
Oh,
quantified
yeah.
self, taking data points on yourself every day and
Uh-huh.
maybe
Okay.
uh, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I like
Like how
that.
many hours of sleep did I get?
Yeah.
How many hours of training? How many calories did I eat today? When did I eat?
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
Sleep is big.
Yeah.
What kind of food did you eat? Or did you stay inside your parameters? This is one thing. If you get a chance, I don't know if you would be interested. I find Brad really interesting. He can go. Sometimes he's got these calls them little breather things, which is like a 15-minute podcast, which is perfect if you're on the freeway for a short time. And sometimes like an
Yeah.
hour and a half, and I'm listening. I'm going, man, I should be taking notes, but I'm trying not to crash into other people. So it depends, but he's a champion for sleep. I think a lot of
Yep.
people, and we're Americans, it's like, I should be up, running, but you realize you go, why are people still dying when they're 70 or whatever? I'm like, well, maybe they didn't get enough sleep. When you
Yep.
when you train yourself to be this razor's edge sharp like you are, right? And you're asking your body to perform these amazing feats of running full speed and then jumping as far as you can and very balanced and reaching and stretching and all that stuff.
Yep.
When you train that hard and practice, guess what? Your body needs time to effectively not just recover, but remodel and change.
Yeah.
How do I get faster? How do I jump farther? How do I develop more power? I gotta, I gotta go to sleep. I gotta go to
Yep.
sleep and let
Yep.
your body doesn't do jack diddly while you're still awake. If you had a
Yep.
great training session and you're like, you worked out really, really hard, you're tired and everything, you come home, you eat, and you're sitting there and you're kind of getting groggy. It's like, good, go to sleep. Don't get on your iPad. Don't get on the phone. Don't start talking. Don't wake your body back up because then all of a sudden you're up till 1 in the morning. You only sleep for 5 hours. You get up and all of a sudden you're operating at a detriment, right? Your body
Yep.
hasn't had time to finish remodeling, finish recovery so you don't get hurt the next day or just at least
Exactly.
the same level workout or whatever it is. So yeah, that's interesting from that point of view.
Yeah. Sleep is, I'd argue, the most important thing in, bless you,
Thank
uh,
you.
in track and field when compared to other sports. Like, for example, soccer or any other kind of endurance sport. Yes, you need sleep, but you're not up like operating at 100% every single day when you're at practice.
Right.
Like, I got recruited to my previous university for soccer, and so I played soccer for 10 years. And obviously, sleep is important, but I could still have a good practice by operating at like 70, 80%.
Yeah.
Um, but with track and field, you can't really get away with not getting sleep because
Yeah.
you have less energy the next day, and then if you don't get good sleep that time, you can't catch up. It's like you have
Yeah.
to be consistent. And something our head coach always says, Coach Bloomfield, he did a lot of sleep research, and he's like, hey, your bodies secrete human growth hormone
Yeah.
in exponential amounts after 8 hours of sleep. So if you're getting
Yeah.
anywhere less than 8 hours,
You're not getting
you're
anything.
really not you're doing a disservice to your body
Yeah.
when you could be, rebuilding tissues in exponential amounts compared to other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention that you might find a way to do that with, and it could just be for your project and not just on yourself. I had a guy last summer come in and was very proactive in reaching out to me to sell me one of those vests that you would put a tracker in, and then you would have
Mhm.
a computer right there for software, but it could basically analyze your speed step to step. And I
Yes.
found that really, really valuable because I could tell my athletes, I said, watch, I'm watching you, and you'd slow down. They're like, I didn't feel like I slowed down. I'm like, you slowed down, I could tell. Your cycling dropped, you whatever, but I'm even just counting, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's a
Yep.
nice acceleration pattern, but you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was really noticeable. And they're like, I don't think that's true. So it'd be nice to have the little data sheet right there. Just say, hey, you started out at 0 meters per second. By the time you got here, you were going 1.5 meters per second. And in between, you continue to go like this, and you can chart
Yep,
step to step, whether you accelerate,
exactly.
change in body mass, center of mass, maybe, all those data points. It's just, oh,
Yeah. We use that when I played soccer. We had trackers like his little, essentially like sports bras that we
right.
had, and they put a tracker on our back, and it tracked top speed, how far we ran, all these little things. But nowadays for track and field, there's a new software that is using AI to like analyze your form as you run, your like gait,
Wow.
how your feet are like putting power into the ground. There's a lot of new technology out there that's really interesting that
Yeah.
I'm looking a little bit into, but it's pretty obscure. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot to it.
Specialized branch. Yeah. You,
Yes.
you kind of have to be involved or creating it along the way, right?
Yeah.
Just looking at the numbers. I find it all pretty amazing. Well,
Yeah.
hey, Dylan, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, young sir. We got to do this more often. I appreciate your time and your flexibility in allowing me to catch up 15 minutes late since I was
Of course.
stuck in traffic and all that. You know how it is here in Southern California.
Yeah.
But
So much fun.
I will send you both. What were you talking about? Me talking about to you. Oh, you've already talked with Jeremy, so you don't need any help there. But I can't remember. See, this is what happens when you get older. I need more sleep. I can't,
Yeah, there you
I
go.
can't, I can't
Uh,
remember what I said a half an hour ago. Um, but hey, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with your senior year coming up. The fall schedule, like you said, you guys are going to compete indoors and out.
yeah.
You staying healthy, setting a new school record and a new PB, getting into the 8 meter range, getting you and your teammates under the school record. You guys aiming for the school record in the 4x1? Is that
Oh
on?
yeah. We could have gone like 40 point this year,
Yeah.
but conditions and injuries, it just didn't come together. But we had enough speed to go 40 point this year.
Yeah, I
I,
remember that what you're talking about, the spring out here, for those of you back east, it probably was, business as usual. But out here where we're used to nice and sunny and dry and warm, I mean, so many Saturdays, rainy, cold, dismal, terrible. I was just
yeah.
like, where am I? I'm in the wrong state. This is not California. It's not supposed to rain. And it was weird because we'd train all week and
Hmm.
it'd be fine. And it would rain on Saturday. I'm like, what the heck? It's supposed to go the other way around. Rather train through the rain and then have a nice day to jump on, so you don't have to
Yeah,
worry about slipping or whatever, right?
yeah, luckily enough here it's usually sunny. There's like a little pocket of 2 months around February,
Yeah,
March where sometimes it's pouring out and we can't
I
really do it.
know.
But
It just seemed like there was a lot of those, like you mentioned, bad wind and rainy,
yeah,
cold,
the wind was crazy this year.
yeah, I don't know
Some
what.
reason in Southern California, it was just I had a I know for our 400 runners, it was like a 5.0 headwind, but I think for our 4x1, it might have been close to 7 or 8 meters per second running into a headwind. It was just,
Yeah.
it was a
Oh,
battle.
yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
hey, we got a lot of things coming up for you. It sounds like you're I always tell all these young kids, everybody's worried about the future with these young people. I say, I think you guys are way sharper than I was at the same time. When I graduated, I didn't have a plan what I was going to do with my degree. I wish I would have just jumped in the coaching bandwagon a lot earlier than later. But
Mhm.
I started teaching instead once I was done trying to be an athlete. But I also waited longer to do that. So, you know, coaching for 6 years and waiting tables and doing that kind of stuff, while I was still trying to be an athlete. And then I waited till I was 30 or so and said, well, I don't think I can do this anymore. I got to get a real job, basically. And, but I like listening to you guys. It sounds like you're way more on top of stuff. So keep me posted. I'm anxious to see
Well,
what it is that you do. So thanks again.
of
We
course.
talking with Dylan Fox here, a long time guest, 2 times now on
There you
the
go.
Raise the Bar podcast. And we're anxious to see how Dylan does next year. He's at Concordia University here in Southern California. He's a school record holder in the long jump and wants to be a co-record holder in the 4x1 relay. Or are you already? You guys already have it?
Already.
Already.
Yep.
So you got 2 school records to your name, which is awesome. And looking to drop those down lower, and then we'll see how it goes. And
Yep.
until next time, man, have great training, stay healthy, use all those tricks. Say hi to Lauren. We got to get her back on the show. She's been on
Will
once
do.
again. All right, sir. Thanks again,
All right.
Dylan. Always good talking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. That was young Dylan Fox. A very nice young man. He's again out here at Concordia University doing a great job coming up with his senior year here, and we're looking to see great distances from him. He was not able to qualify for the trials this year. Sounds like he's got to get out in the 8 meter range, but he's had some fouls that he thought was out in the 770s and 80s. So with a little more speed and a little more power over the next 3 or 4 years, and maybe some higher level coaching, he's got the talent. And I first met Dylan. I think I heard about him. I had just left coaching at Irvine High School when he was there, and then I'd heard about him from the coach that I used to work for, Brenton Youngren. He told me he had this young phenom, and now here he is jumping 25 feet at the college level. So until next time, we'll be talking back with you here soon. Want to get Dontavius Hill, Kennedy Souter. Talked with him just recently. Want to try to get him back on the show. We have a lot of Olympic trial high jumpers who made it to the trials but didn't quite make it onto the team, and it would be fun to talk with them about their experience. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll also do I want to see who's in the Olympic field this year and maybe do a kind of a DraftKings on picking your winners. So until next time, here on Raise the Bars, Troy Haines. Has been fun talking with you, and keep listening and keep subscribing if you get a chance. Down at the bottom of the Sky High and Fly Jump Lab spot here on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button and just keep listening to podcasts. We got high caliber athletes and coaches, trainers, sports psychologists, nutritionists, everybody that can help us to raise the bar in what we're doing, high, long, triple, pole vault, and everything. Until next time, Troy Haines signing off. Thanks for listening.